Yeah, baby.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Dalton at Myers Tactical, and today we're going to completely disassemble my Glock 29 10mm. This is my everyday carry, and I wanted to add some aftermarket parts to it. The OEM parts are good, but I wanted to add a slide stop lever, extended slide stop lever. Okay, it's got that little dimple right there so that it's easier for your thumb to get it and release the slide forward. And then I'm going to add a 3.5 pound Ghost ink connector. Some people say you shouldn't do this on your carry gun, but we've already put it in and tested it, and it drops the trigger to about 5.15 pounds. We also did a trigger job on this where I'll post that video also. Pretty simple. There's a ton of them on YouTube, so if you need to know how to do it, I'll put a card up here on this video, and we'll make sure that we get that out as soon as possible. But so let's get started. It's a pretty simple process, really. So it's unloaded, okay? And the first thing you want to do is discharge. You're going to take the slide off, okay? There's the internals. You can see we polished that up. We polished up some other slide components. I'll show you those here when we do the trigger job video. But so the first thing you want to do is grab your 3/32 punch and start pulling these pins out. This back pin here is plastic, so it's a smooth plastic pin. There's nothing too special about it, but just so that you can see it and you know that this plastic pin goes in the back, because this goes through that plastic trigger mechanism housing is what they call it off of the parts list, and that's how they come from the factory. So the next thing you want to do is take out this top pin here. This pin holds in the locking block, but it also holds in the spring for the slide stop lever. Okay, this spring right here, this allows this keeps tension on the slide stop lever, so when you pull it up, it keeps it down. So this keeps it down in that position, but it has to ride on that pin to work like it's designed. So we'll pop this pin out, and by the way, you should never use a hammer for this. You should never need a hammer. These pins aren't in here too hard, right? So all you gotta do is get that pin past the little spring, and it comes right out. Or this one's shaped like a little barbell, right? Can you see those bevels in it? Hey, you should be able to see those. Yeah. So you can see those bevels in there, and that denotes that top pin. That's that top pin. Plus, this top pin is smaller than the trigger pin. So now comes the tricky part. So this slide stop lever actually sits in a beveled part of this pin right here, and you got to kind of wiggle it back and forth to get it out. So what I like to do is I like to push it all the way forward, right? Start the pin, okay, and then let it go, and then it comes right out, right? It's not that hard, but you see the bevels there. Those bevels are where that slide stop lever sits. So it'll sit something like this. That's what it looks like when it's in there. And then what you do is you push it forward to unlock it, and then as you push that pin and then you let it go, it comes right out. So pretty simple. So then you take this locking block out right here, right? That's in the front. That just comes right out. Now you can take your OEM slide stop lever out. Put that to the side. Oh, you want to save these, by the way, because one day, if you're anything like me, one day you'll get into building 80% lowers, the Polymer 80s, and sometimes you'll get parts that are broke off, or sometimes these springs get bent when you are first starting, and you'll want to be able to use this spring, so you can just pop it right out of there, out of that little hole, and that you can reuse that spring. Now we'll pull the trigger housing or the trigger assembly out. Okay, There it is, OEM. We did some polishing on it. I also did some coloring on it. Okay, that coloring, I was just kind of trying to note, you know, when you're trying to figure out, if you want to try to figure out how to do a trigger job yourself, all you got to do is just start coloring, and then where you see wear marks when you pull the trigger, you go to shoot your gun, right? That's where you'll polish, right? Kind of a cool trick. But anyway, when you're taking this trigger bar out of the trigger mechanism housing here, pretty simple. So you want to flatten it out, okay? And then you pull it backwards. You get some spring tension, just enough to get that front lip of that trigger bar, this piece right here, past that connector, and it comes right out. The cool thing about this trigger housing mechanism is that on the back side where the connector is, it's got a hole in it, right, that fits a 3/32 punch. So take your old one out, put that, see, we colored that one too, just for fun. And so you just put your new connector in. Goes right here. Okay. And then when you reassemble it, remember, you just pull it back, get it past that connector, and it goes right in, right? Pretty simple. Okay. And then you start reassembling it. So you put your housing back in that back hole, and that'll click in there. So let me be quiet for a second and listen. Hear it click? That's where it needs to sit. And then you take your plastic pin right here, push it in there. Okay. And literally, guys, I mean, you put it in with your fingernail. Like it doesn't take much force to get these in here. And you can actually break that plastic pin if you don't get this lined up right. So unless you got plastic pins sitting at home, be careful. And then you just want to even it up a little bit. There it goes. See? You can hear them click too. Oh, that went too far, but there we go. Okay, that's level, or that's even, I mean. So next thing we want to do, remember, I didn't put that trigger housing in, or that locking block in, until after I put the trigger assembly in, because it's kind of tough to get it past that little bar right there. Okay, so I just wait after I get the trigger assembly in, and this thing will slide right in past it. Okay, now the next thing I do is I take my locking block pin, right, the one that looks like a little barbell, and then I stick that in there, right? And why do I wait, you ask? Because if I wait, then I don't have to fight with that spring on this slide stop lever. I don't have to try to depress the spring and get it in there. If you just put this one in first, you can slide that spring right under it, and it's much easier. So we got all the pins in but one. Now we put our extended slide stop lever in there. Okay, and it goes in that third hole right, or that third slot right there. Okay, third, so it's the closest one to me this side. All right, so make sure it goes up the right way. Make sure that spring, you might have to mess with that spring a little bit because you don't want it to be all jacked up when it goes in there. Okay, there we go, got it in there. That's in there. Now you can see that everything lines up real nice. See? Start your pin. Oh, I should probably start from the other side, huh? That'd be probably a lot easier, so I gotta get it through two of those. Okay, there it is. Now, if you listen, that thing will click. There it is. Guys, that's almost a complete disassembly and reassembly of a Glock, where we're putting in a connector and a slide stop lever. So if you got any questions, put them in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And I'll put some of the gear and some of the tools and some of the parts that I put in this, my Glock 29. I'll make sure I put those in the comments below. Guys, make sure you're subscribed and make sure you turn on your post notifications. Thanks for watching.